Hello, y'all. I don't know what has possessed me to do this here, but I've decided that this is where the vlog will be taking place, girl. And I'm just gonna just sit here and film this.
I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play yourself. You can try to save yourself.
All right, girl, you're very close. Should I go into the sun? It's giving a sunlight moment. Okay, so welcome to Autism Pump YouTube, where I discuss my experiences with autism, mental health, addiction recovery, and becoming a baby bodybuilder. A couple days ago, I asked you guys on Instagram what you wanted for the vlog today. And you guys voted most, like, I think there was like 40 votes for autism. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't really have much prepared. We're gonna do this in one shot kind of thing. I wrote, like, I had like with ChatGPT, look at this way I'm sitting. Like, what is this? Anyway, I'm gonna bring you closer, girl, Miss Girl. So I think I will start with my own autism diagnosis. So a friend of mine, like an old friend of mine, we're not really friends anymore, but I digress. She used to make this joke all the time. She'd be like, oh yeah, it's just the autism in you. And I was like, I got curious. I did a little bit of research and I was like, this kind of seems like me. So I consulted my therapist. I was like, Ms. Girl, hey, I'm just wondering, do you think I'm autistic? And she was like, well, I would take like this assessment and then see what it says, and then if you want to get like a formal diagnosis, then get a formal diagnosis. So I took it, and Ms. Girl, the result was Asperger's. That being said, it is an outdated term and now it's just ASD. But at the time, I was living in Mexico. Like, I didn't have access to Canadian healthcare. And even if I did, girl, guess what? Even if I did, guess what? It's really hard to go through Canadian healthcare to get help with mental health or with anything. I love how there's a shadow here of the camera. That's okay. Anyway, so when I was living in Mexico, I consulted my psychiatrist, who I got when I was there, and I was like, hey, I'm just wondering if you know any people that specialize in, like, I don't know, like autism diagnosis or whatever. So she referred me to a doctor. And then I went and I did my initial assessment. It was approximately 60 minutes. Sat with her, she asked me questions, I talked about my experiences, and at the end of it, she was like, yeah, I would say that you're autistic, and I would classify you as being, like, as specifically as having Asperger's. So, like, when I told my friend that I was friends with me when I was living in Mexico, that I was going to get the to get the diagnosis, she didn't really want me to do it for a variety of reasons. One, because I already have 5 mental health diagnoses, and she was like, you don't need another thing that's wrong with you. But I just wanted to say, like, I remember when I found out, it was really validating and very freeing. It's so funny because the first thing that I did was I called her afterwards to tell her, I was like, yeah, I'm Asperger's. She was like, isn't Elon Musk Asperger's? Isn't he like, don't you have to be really smart to have Asperger's? And I was like, girly pop. First of all, thank you. But she was insinuating that I wasn't intelligent. And then I was like, love you too, Carla, Miss Girl. She never watches these, so it's fine. But if she does, hi, Carla, I love you. Anyway, it was just really funny, I thought. If you're watching this, you probably follow me on Instagram. And Instagram for the past month has been girly pop. It's been a wild time for me. My years of bullying did not actually prepare me for the level of hatred. And like, I've gotten like all kinds of stuff. I actually got my first death threat the other day. Slay. Someone was like, I'm gonna hit you over the head with a brick over the next couple weeks. And that was a little frightening, but it do be like that. It's giving fan behavior. How do you know where I live? Impressive, not gonna lie. One of the things that's really frustrating that I will speak about briefly is, so like when I started content creation, I did it with a couple goals in mind, and I wanted to be as like authentic as I could. Like, I don't use filters. Not that there's anything fucking wrong with filters, but like for me, I just need to not use them because it like warps my self-perception. But like, I wanted to be very transparent about the good days I have and the bad days I have. And I am diagnosed BPD, ADHD, eating disorder otherwise specified, borderline personality disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and major depressive disorder. And most of these diagnoses I've had, all of those I've had for over a decade now. Some of them I've had for 16 years. When I was 9, I was also diagnosed with OCD. Slay, not anymore, we got over it. That being said, like, I have had like a hard life. Like, you know, I don't know, someone brought something up to me which I thought was interesting, and they were like, I don't think that people are used to seeing someone who is autistic that's confident, and I think that's confusing for them, and maybe that's why. All of the online hate stuff is mostly people saying that I'm not autistic, or that I'm faking autism for views, or that I'm monetizing it, which is really funny because I spend so much time doing content creation and not getting paid for any of it. But the whole goal is to make people feel less alone in their struggles. And, you know, like on the days where I'm really overstimulated, overwhelmed, stressed, and then I get lots of hate comments, it's fine. The only ones that actually really affect me are the ones that people are saying that they're also autistic, or they have mental health issues, and that I'm faking it, and that it makes them feel really shitty. That's what upsets me, because throughout this, at the end of the day, the last thing I would ever want anyone to feel who struggles with mental health or addiction or autism or anyone who struggles, I would never want them to feel invalidated. So that's like kind of the only like really upsetting thing I would say. But someone brought up a good point, which is like, if you actually had experience with this, it's a lot easier to be able to kind of like identify it. And in that way, I don't know, it's just funny because everyone's a fucking doctor now. One of the things that there is a lot of crossover with ADHD and with autism. And one of the things that I struggle with hard is sensory issues. I've talked about it before. I don't normally, like, unless I'm going to the gym, even at work, girl, like, I don't wear bras because I can't handle feeling like that constricted. When it comes to clothing, I can do stuff that's like either like tight or like extremely baggy, not really in between. All I know is like sometimes when you're overstimulated, and there are lots of crossovers between ADHD and autism. I happen to be diagnosed with both. Overstimulation can come from a lot of things, and it's interesting. I was having a conversation with like a friend of mine at the gym who's like also very ADHD, and we were talking because I was at work the other day, and I went into work and I was like, cool, I'm here early, no one's gonna be there. Boy, was I ever wrong. There was a child who was running around and fucking with the lights. Again, fine, but like, whatever. And then some guy came in and brought his girlfriend, and they brought their dog, and the dog was yapping, and then the girlfriend was talking to this other girl, and it was just so loud, and all the noises. There was like this like cacophony of sound, and I was just like so overwhelmed. I wanted to cry and scream and punch a hole in the wall. And I find that personally, I think like this kind of gets combined with the BPD, but like, I mean, it depends. Sometimes my response to being like to sensory overload, whether that's like a tactile thing of like, okay, I don't like the feeling of this clothing, which is why I wear a lot of dark sport, because a lot of it is like 100% cotton and my skin likes it. When it's like, when I'm experiencing major sensory overload and it's like sound based kind of, it's funny because like you wouldn't think that if you're choosing, I don't know, it's weird. Like I was talking to a friend about this, and we were talking about like excision and like hardcore, like fucking dubstep, like music, and how when you're experiencing sensory overload, that type of music can be really helpful. And it's funny because when I was at work the other morning, I started listening to that like so loud to just drown everything else out. But in my experience, when I am dealing with sensory overload, sometimes I can get really, really angry, like next level angry, like so mad. And the way that I deal with that is just by like disconnecting from people. Like I've been on phone calls or like been with friends when I've been really overwhelmed and had like sensory overload, and they can tell it's coming, and I just get really angry. Like I'll just be like, fuck, and then I'll know. You know, I was talking with a friend the other night, and I was like, okay, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to like talk with you again in the morning because I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I'm not processing what you're saying. I'm very angry, and I knew to just like disconnect at that moment because I wouldn't be able to like effectively listen or communicate when I'm in that like heightened state. Something else that I wanted to discuss is like autism in media, I guess, and how it's portrayed. The thing is that in my experience recently, a lot of people's perception of what autism is doesn't line up what autism actually is. And that's the thing, is like, at the end of the day, it's a spectrum, right? So you can have the list of different symptoms. I don't remember, but like there are so many different ones. And they say that if you meet one autistic person, then you're meeting one autistic person. You can't just like meet one autistic person and be like, okay, that's what autistic people look like, because we're all different. That's kind of the whole point of the spectrum. I think the problem is that people tend to show very like severe, not severe necessarily, I don't know what's synonymous with the word that I'm looking for here. I don't know, it's like very, I think it's like what is perceived by media as like common, very like aggressively severe, I don't know, autistic traits. And it's not always like that. You know what I mean? It's hard, right? Because at the end of the day, like a lot of people like to speak on things that they know nothing about and like, I don't know, claim that they're experts. I don't know. All I know is that having this diagnosis is not easy, girly pop. And dealing with this shit is not easy. At the end of the day, like all you can really do is like try to inform and be kind to people and extend the kindness that you would hope to receive. One thing I did want to touch on quickly is like autism and relationships. So I found that something before I found out about my diagnosis, and that's the thing about finding out and like being diagnosed with something or being able to identify what you struggle with, whether it's like mental health issues or autism or whatever, is when you know, then you have like the ability to do research and build like a kind of like custom toolkit of what works for you and like coping strategies to deal with it. So I didn't find out that I was autistic until December of 2021. And since then, I've done lots of research, and that research has helped me kind of like cope with things a little bit better. Within relationships, it's hard, right? Because I remember at the time, you know, my partner didn't really understand. We'd go to grocery stores and I would just like shut down, right? And it's hard for people to understand something that they don't, it's so cold, something that they don't like necessarily understand. Girl, not this light. It does impact, it can impact relationships negatively. I think that really in my last relationship, it was more my mental health that impacted it negatively, but I'm not gonna go into that much. My main message or takeaway is that autism is a spectrum. It looks different on everybody. And another thing is that in my case, I am diagnosed, but it's really fucking hard to get diagnosed. So like, if you identify with it, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, to be honest. It's just too hard. It's really hard to get a diagnosis. And if you are, you know, finding similarities, like I think the same like test is available online that psychiatrists give that you can just like test it out and, I don't know, see how you feel. If you're autistic and you're watching this, like, you're not alone. This shit's hard. And it's hard because people don't believe you. That's what's a little frustrating, and it's very dangerous to invalidate someone's struggles with this shit, because when you go your whole life not understanding why you are the way that you are, and you finally get that diagnosis, or you finally come to an understanding of this is why I function the way that you do, it can be really freeing and really validating to finally understand things. Like, I remember having major sensory issues. Like, when I was a kid, my dad would chew and it would upset me so much. He used to do this thing where, because it would upset me, so, and he always had the TV playing in the background, like 24/7 CNN, and I'd be like, hey, do you mind if, you know, we turn up the volume, because I couldn't stand the sound of it. And he used to do this like really petty thing where he would grab his food and go down the hallway and sit on the stairs and eat on the stairs, and make a really big deal out of it when it was just, I wasn't, like, again, I was a child, and I wasn't saying it to be mean. It just really, really upset me. Like, the sound just really, really upset me. Fuck. I don't even know what I was talking about. Sorry, I'm just like dissociating right now. You need to be so careful with what you say, and like, don't invalidate someone else's struggles, because once you finally come to that understanding where you know who you are and why you are the way that you are and why you function the way that you do, to have someone invalidate that, it's very, very dangerous, and you have to be so careful, especially with people with like autism or like mental health issues. If you're having a meltdown or a mental breakdown and someone invalidates you, that can be the difference between someone living and someone dying. And I don't say this lightly, especially with things like BPD. You just have to be really, really, really careful. Like with BPD, I go up and down so fast, and I feel suicidal so fast over the smallest thing. So like, if I had anything to close this off with, it's just like, be kind to people, believe them when they tell you something that they're struggling with, and like, find ways to help and support them. Take like 10 minutes out of your day and like, educate yourself about what autism is, or the struggles that maybe your partner or someone that you have built a relationship, platonic or otherwise, with goes through, because you can't base something on, like, you can't base your understanding off of something that you haven't done research on. So do some research, find out about stuff, and yeah, if just don't invalidate people's struggles, because again, it's very, very dangerous. I think that's it. I think that's the video. I was in the shade for most of this. Anyway, today was like a really good day. I feel good. Yeah, I went and trained legs, and it was just lovely. And I'm gonna go see a friend tonight, and I'm so fucking excited about it because I never get to see her. And we're gonna have food, and today is an untracked food day. And yeah, I don't know, if you got to the end of the video, thanks for watching. If you're not subscribing, you should. But if anything resonated with you, or you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment or DM me on Instagram or TikTok. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. And if you're autistic, Tism gang, I don't know. All I know what to say is, if you're autistic, you're hot. If you're watching this and you're autistic, you're hot. It's just a scientific fact. You're hot. Everyone with autism is hot. And that's science, baby girl. Anyway, YouTube, done. Big slay. Have a great day, y'all.